Good afternoon, Dr. Reddy. I have only seen you on the television, and it's really an honor to be with you on this for this event. Yeah.
Oh, yes, yeah.
It's a pleasure, ma'am. Thank you. I'm honored, actually.
Yeah, Srinath is internationally and nationally known for his work on public health.
In some remote past life, I used to be a cardiologist.
To how many prime ministers, Srinath?
2.
Okay.
But I also did some tests on Rajiv Gandhi. So if you want to count that, then
3. Okay. Okay.
So since we are
and if you want to consider the fact that I put in once an IV line into Mr. Vajpayee.
Oh, so it's okay. 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 Right.
Dr. Alex, since we are yet to formally start, I was just wondering, what is the feeling whether we'd have a third wave of COVID or we are somewhat safe now?
You have the best person in the probably international, Dr. Srinath. I'll hand it over to you, Srinath.
Well, ma'am, basically it depends upon what we define by third wave. Are we talking about any and all infections, or are we talking about serious infections which require hospitalization? If it is the latter, it's unlikely that we will have such a severe third wave, and certainly not to the same extent as the second wave, and certainly not in all parts of India. It may be in a few places that you will see some spikes and some matters of concern, where the immunity levels are either low or have faded away. But in most parts, the infections may be there because there are still a large number of susceptible people. But mild infections, which are either subclinical or mildly clinical, should not really bother us at that point. We need to continue our public health precautions because we do not know when a variant will emerge, either from within the country or come from outside. So at least for several months more, till vaccination reaches above 70% rates, we should be fairly careful.
So you've got it straight from the horse's mouth, Dr.
Yes, because we can otherwise just have to keep waiting. I listened to...
Namaskar.
Dr. Jadhav has joined, and Dr. Glory also welcome.
Yeah.
I think yes, since all of you had this also been a family endeavor, because Glory and Divya helped me a lot. So I said officially we'll put them in. So welcome to you, Dr. Glory.
Thank you.
Then,
Good afternoon, everybody. This is Narendra.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, sir. It's good to see you after a long time.
Good afternoon, Dr. Jadhav. Pleasure and privilege to meet you on the virtually, and thank you for being part of this.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
He can always present himself like Narendra, then bracket Modi. It looks like.
Then
Good afternoon, everyone.
Dr. Sunila is another. Dr. Sunila is another renowned public health expert working with the government in Maulana Azad. So, sorry, sir, Dr. Jadhav, sir, you were saying something, sir?
No. When somebody was talking about Narendra in bracket, I wanted to remind you that our middle name is also same.
Oh, okay.
Is Narendra Damodar Das Modi. Mine is Narendra Damodar Jadhav.
Okay.
There is a certain amount of similarity before his Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore look, and I had told in one of the meetings in Planning Commission where Shakila was also present, that if you need a standby or a duplicate,
And sir, you're looking like a Dr. Narendra Modi.
Yeah.
Quite similar with the beard and all.
Yeah, so it's not just a namesake, it's also very much a look-alike also.
Yeah.
Okay, then we see it's 3 o'clock. Shall we start?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Yeah, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Alex. And it's my pleasure to extend a warm welcome to all the participants and the experts, and of course, the guest most important of today, Dr. Narendra Jadhav, who has consented to release the document Guidelines for Reopening of Schools Post-COVID-19 Pandemic. Friends, right from the primary school to college, developing young minds in close physical proximity halted abruptly in mid-March 2020. Millions of kindergartners started school in a format previously unthinkable. And the time has come probably to ensure that we bring back the students to the schools and colleges. And rightly, this document has been timed. The guidelines for reopening of schools post-COVID-19 pandemic, jointly prepared by the Global Coalition for COVID-19 Medical Care, known as GCCMC, and the Association of Healthcare Providers India, AHPI. With that, it's my pleasure to request Dr. Shakila Shamsu, the former officer on special duty, New Education Policy, the Ministry of Education, Government of India, to formally welcome one and all. Dr. Shakila Shamsu, please.
Thank you, Dr. Shanmuganandan. Greetings, namaskar, and a good afternoon to all of you. On behalf of the Association of Healthcare Providers of India and the Global Coalition for COVID-19 Medical Care, and on my personal behalf, along with Chairperson Dr. Alexander Thomas, it gives me immense pleasure to welcome each one of you for the release of the joint advisory document, Guidelines for Reopening of Schools Post-COVID-19 Pandemic. We are honored to have in the midst of us an illustrious and eminent person, Dr. Narendra Jadhav, who has graciously consented to release this document. Dr. Jadhav is presently nominated to the Rajya Sabha and is an honorable member of the House of Elders. He's an eminent economist, educationist, academician, administrator, and a celebrated author in English, Hindi, and Marathi. As an independent member of the Parliament, having been nominated by the Honorable President of India, Dr. Jadhav has carved out a distinct place for himself through his studious interventions in the House while serving on various standing committees and consultative committees of the Parliament. Dr. Jadhav has an outstanding professional career spanning over 4 decades in public service, and some of the distinguished positions that he has held is that of member of Education Commission, Vice Chancellor of the Savitribai Phule Pune University, advisor to the International Monetary Fund, and the Chief Economist of the Reserve Bank of India. Dr. Narendra Jadhav is a prolific writer, and I take this opportunity to tell you that he writes in 3 languages, Marathi, English, and Hindi, and he has written or edited over 41 books and over 300 research papers, other than, of course, official reports that are related to public policy. It is noteworthy that Dr. Jadhav's family biography in English, Untouchables, is an international book bestseller and has been translated into 15 languages, including French, Spanish, Korean, and Thai. And the original Marathi of his family biography, Amcha Baap Ani Me, has, I think I have pronounced it well, has created history with unprecedented 201 editions. And the Punjabi version of it has received the coveted Sahitya Akademi Award. Dr. Jadhav is also the recipient of several national and international awards, and particularly has been sort of honored with 4 honorary D.Litt degrees and the Commander of the Order of Academic Palms by the government of France. We are extremely thankful to you, sir, for sparing your valuable time and graciously consenting to release the document, and we all warmly and heartily welcome you.
Thank you.
The release is also graced by 2 eminent personalities in the field of medicine who have taken out time from their extremely busy schedules to be with us today. Padma Bhushan, Professor Srinath Reddy, President of the Public Health Foundation of India, who was formerly the head of the Department of Cardiology at the All India Institute of Medical Sciences, and also the former president of the National Board of Examinations. Welcome, sir. Dr. J. Jayalal, National President, Indian Medical Foundation, is a professor of surgery at the Tirunelveli Medical College and also the vice president of the Commonwealth Medical Association, London, UK. We welcome you, Dr. Jayalal. We welcome you once again, Dr. Jadhav, Dr. Reddy, and Dr. Jayalal for gracing this occasion. I also welcome a host of illustrious persons who are gathered here for the release and whose contribution to the making of this document is deeply acknowledged. Mr. Hari Hegde, Senior Vice President and Global Head of Operations, Wipro Limited. Dr. Alexander Thomas with me as a co-chair, with me as a chairperson, and in fact, as I would say, both the de jure and the de facto chairperson, President of the Association of Health Providers India, and a number of other illustrious organizations that he heads. Dr. Giridhar Gyani, who is the Director General, AHPI. Dr. Kalpana Datta, who is the Director of the Pediatric Center of Excellence in HIV Care, Medical College, Calcutta. Professor Giridhar Babu, member of the COVID Technical Advisory Committee for the Government of Karnataka. Dr. Ritesh Singh, Associate Professor, All India Institute of AIMS, West Bengal. Dr. Zakaria, who is the Professor and Director of the DDU Kaushal Kendra at the Cochin University of Science and Technology. There is a whole host of advisors, group leads, and senior academics, including medical practitioners, who have been responsible for making this report, which has been a Herculean task being brought out in less than a period of 1 month. And all credit goes to the team which works with the Association of Health Providers of India, Dr. Shanmuganandan and his team. And I am really glad that we are organizing this today. And I welcome each one of you and hope that we take this forward to spread the message to the stakeholders, the school teachers, the parents, and everyone whose lives are being touched by the COVID pandemic today, and who should be made to feel reassured that we can join the education through main face-to-face learning and other strategies in a safe manner. So I once again welcome each one of you to the function, and I think the details of the report would be shared by my colleague, Dr. Alexander Thomas. I take the liberty to call him colleague because we both have been there as the chairpersons. Once again, I welcome each one of you all to this release function. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Shakila Shamshu. We now have the pleasure of requesting Dr. Alexander Thomas, the key brain behind this document, to give us an introduction into the document as a whole. Dr. Alexander Thomas, President of the Association of Healthcare Providers, India.
Thank you, Dr. Shakila and Dr. Shanmuganand. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Today, as the second wave of COVID seemingly tapers, we pray that the third wave will simply not arrive, or if it arrives, will be in a much, much milder form. The global economy, as a result of COVID, has been battered and millions have gone into poverty. In India itself, it is estimated that 240 million individuals have fallen into the below poverty line. Education, like has been said, has been affected like never before. The losses due to this disruption cannot be quantified in money, but the estimate is, and especially in our country, many of the children who become malnourished because of lack of midday meals, it's estimated that 30% of the kids will not go back to school. So it's going to be in billions and billions of dollars. As the world tries to get back to a semblance of pre-COVID times, schools all over the country are beginning to open. Understandably, there is a sense of fear and panic among parents, among students, and among teachers. In fact, when we started doing this document at the request of a few schools and a few educationists, we got some irate calls from parents asking us, why do you want to open schools? The pandemic is not over. We are more worried about our children's health, and school is not as important. So it's a very sensitive question. So once again, I think let me take this opportunity here to tell all of you that this document is not whether to open schools or not to open schools. These are only guidelines that to be followed as the schools reopen. As was mentioned a bit earlier, this is the second document that we're doing in a similar fashion. The first one was done at the request of the airports, the aviation industry. And again, that was done to give some confidence to the travelers, to encourage air travel in a move to help the economy. This document has been a little easier to do because we had the experience of the past document. The first document took us many, many meetings, and I think finally it was 15 drafts before the final document. This particular document on schools, we were actually able to do it in 8 drafts and much faster. This group, as was mentioned by my chair, has the foremost medical experts in public health and infectious diseases. We have renowned pediatricians from all over the country. We were also privileged to have teachers from almost all the states, both government and private schools, both primary and high school. As we mentioned, that parents also played a very important role in the final document. This completed draft, after the draft, the experts had given their opinion, was sent, as we normally do, to another set of parents, teachers, and clinicians for reviews. And I want to express my thanks to all my colleagues who helped create this document, and especially my chair, Dr. Shakila, who incidentally was mentioned earlier, was Secretary of the National Education Policy Committee. This is going to revolutionize education in our country and put India at the lead in the world in the coming decades. She worked closely with Dr. Kasturi Rangan, who is also my mentor. We are very grateful to every member who has put in so much effort. As you can see, all of them are very busy professionals, and we value their contribution. So this final document is a compilation of many scientific recommendations, primarily keeping in mind public safety to avoiding contacting and spreading of the coronavirus. It is our hope that this document will prove useful and give confidence to parents, teachers, and students who are preparing for the schools to reopen. To take this forward, as my co-chairperson said, we are planning to have a webinar on 21st, Tuesday, where we will have experts on the panel, and we will be inviting parents, teachers, and students to come in, and any queries we will try and address. We're also planning to present this document to the Ministry of Health and the Education Ministry in Delhi next week, where I hope to meet Dr. Jadhav also at this time. And we also are planning to translate this document into some local languages and try and spread whatever we have learned. The link to this document will be available soon after the release, both on the AHPI and GCCM websites. And if you find it, to all those who are listening, request you to share this liberally if you find it useful. Very briefly, on behalf of all of us, I'd say that this document is a labor of love for our students. May God bless our children, the future of our country, and keep them safe and healthy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Alexander Thomas. With that, let's have a look at a video which would mark the lamp lighting ceremony of this document release function. And this video has 2 components, the latter one being introduction of the experts who were involved in creation of this document. Mr. Mahesh, can we have the video, please? Audio.
There is no audio, I think.
There is no audio. Mr. Mahesh? From the beginning. we have the video from the beginning, please? Problem there. Thank you, Mr. Mahesh. And with that, we move on to the address by the dignitaries. And I have the pleasure of requesting Professor Dr. K. Srinath Reddy, President of the Public Health Foundation of India, to address the participants, please. Professor Srinath Reddy, sir, please come in, sir.
Thank you very much. The dignitaries gracing this occasion and the luminaries who are illuminating this event with their presence and participation. It is a great pleasure to be part of this event where the guidelines that have been developed with such care and attention to the safety of schools as a learning environment for children when they do open. The guidelines are now ready for dissemination and adoption. And such guidelines are a very welcome addition to our national endeavor to provide an effective response to the COVID pandemic in multiple settings. It is very clear that we cannot really keep our schools closed for too long. It is absolutely necessary to provide the educational environment in which children can advance their learning and pursue their career goals but most importantly, attain intellectual growth as well as physical fitness in an active school environment. Unfortunately, COVID-19 has interrupted that progress. But whenever the schools do reopen, we do have a societal responsibility to provide a safe learning environment, and the anxieties of the parents that have been mentioned by Dr. Alexander Thomas are very legitimate, even though it is now the general consensus around the world that children, if they do get infected, are unlikely to have severe clinical consequences. Nevertheless, when we talk in terms of small percentages of them requiring hospitalization or falling severely ill, every parent worries whether it is their child who will fall within that percentage. So it is our responsibility to ensure that we can make the schools as safe as possible. These guidelines are indeed very, very useful in shaping how the schools can provide both a safe physical environment, a supportive mental environment, and a nurturing learning environment. And having all of these precautions very clearly stated, right from the manner in which we say how the adults who are in close proximity to the children, whether in home settings or in transport settings or in the school settings, need not only to be vaccinated, but also take due care in terms of ensuring that viral transmission from person to person does not occur, with masks and physical distancing to the extent feasible. The whole idea of providing adequate ventilation as much as possible also comes in very strongly in order to ensure that aerosol spread does not affect the children. But I believe it's important for us to provide that emotional support to children who have lived with fear and anxiety, and sometimes even with a sense of bereavement when they've lost somebody close to them in their families. And therefore, providing that emotional support becomes critical in the school setting, and the role of teachers and peer support becomes very important for those sections of the student community. But I believe, apart from attending to the guidelines in relation to what the schools will do in terms of resuming their learning functions based upon predetermined or modified curricula and ensuring that they get back onto track with the learning objectives, there is also a great opportunity provided by the COVID pandemic for a much more extended learning, which is important for children in terms of understanding both environment and public health. Why do pandemics occur? Why do zoonotic transmissions take place from viruses that are previously sequestered in wildlife into veterinary populations and into human habitat? What are the conveyor belts that we are creating by extensive deforestation to have ecological despoilation that stoke zoonotic pandemics? It is important that every child learns about it, because they have to become responsible citizens who are environmentally conscious and ensure that our sustainable development paradigms are not destructive of our forestry and do not have dependence on all kinds of factory farming of livestock, which are the breeding grounds for zoonotic pandemics. At the same time, when we recognize that non-communicable diseases like hypertension, cardiovascular disease, chronic respiratory illness are the ones that are likely to predispose people to much higher risk in case of a respiratory virus infection, be it COVID-19 or influenza, there is a learning that we can pass on to our children. Why are their uncles, aunts, or grandmothers or grandfathers likely more to suffer from COVID if they have hypertension or cardiovascular disease? How is it that these diseases are acquired through faulty nutrition, through inadequate physical activity, through smoking habits. These are the kind of discussions that we can actually stoke so that children actually get educated in life skills education, which is material for public health, their own personal health, as well as societal health. So I believe as we re-enter the learning environment, there's a great opportunity not only to follow the standardized curricula, but to expand the horizons, the intellectual and emotional horizons of children by making them familiar with many more facets of life's education that the pandemic has opened up for us to explore and try and introduce the children to. We at the Public Health Foundation of India are committed to provide support in all ways to provide protection and for ensuring health promotion in the school environment, including providing learning resources for the kind of subjects that I've just mentioned. And we will be happy to offer our support to the organizers of this particular event, the very many partners that are there, in order to provide those kind of learning materials and learning modules, so that we actually make our children not only re-enter the learning environment with a greater sense of safety and security, but also open their minds to other learning opportunities, which are very important for shaping the future society as responsible citizens. I would like to congratulate everybody associated with this particular initiative, especially Dr. Alexander Thomas, who, unlike his famous named predecessor, Alexander, who lamented that there are no more worlds to conquer, every day finds new worlds to conquer with his unbounded imagination, unlimited energy, and unmatchable commitment to many causes. So congratulations to Alex Thomas and all the other associates who have actually launched this excellent product. And I believe it will be a product of great value to the Indian society. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Professor K. Srinath Reddy. We now move on to address by Dr. J. Jayalal, the National President of the world's largest non-governmental organization, the Indian Medical Association. Dr. Jayalal, please.
Thank you very much, sir. Distinguished the office bearers of AHPA, my beloved friend, Dr. Alexander Thomas, the great leader, Dr. Giridhar, the respected and very renowned, the great contributor for the academic and the medical fraternity, Dr. Srinath Reddy, and other distinguished leaders. I'm extremely delighted and thankful to Dr. Alexander and the AHPA for inviting me to be here at this moment of enjoying the most worthiest work done by Dr. Alexander and the team for releasing this much awaited the school reopening guidelines. We know for sure that many times in India that many of the actions are taken place as a knee-jerk reaction. We don't have a protocol, we do not follow a systemic approach. Whenever there is something happen, there is an immediate response will be taken place. But this is one area where we need to go very slowly and steadily, understanding the entire component and making an appropriate decision at the right time to ensure the safety, security, and the benefit of that the school reopening are happening. And I'm extremely thankful that we are able to formulate a guidelines for that at this crucial moment of things. The equity and impact on the educational loss which the COVID pandemic has created is known much to us. But how to go ahead and how to respond to that is a very big $1 million question in front of us. I'm so happy that when Dr. Alexander Zar in his address, he said it is not that he is saying that the school should be opened or not opened, but he said when we are on the process and we shall have to follow these certain guidelines and protocol. It is not a one-day step. It is a dynamic process, and every moment of it that we need to very cautious on that and go ahead with that. So when the school reopening, why it is mandatory, necessary, why it is going to contribute great, we all know, because whatever the internet learning or the online education, we are able to only provide the cognitive skills, but not the other component of the education like affective domain and the psychomotor skills and the peer pressure and the support we are not able to provide, and it is required. And when the students are coming to the school, and definitely it will be given an opportunity for them to get the pressure and get the impetus to go forward, understand with each other and go forward in a positive way. The we cannot take it as an all or none phenomena. It has to be on a continuous monitoring, and we should have the contingency plan or the continuous monitoring plan, even if after the opening of the school, that when to take an appropriate decision and how we are going to ahead. I think this team would have taken all the steps which is needed for the particular process and particular way it has to be go together in this document. One area where throughout the country, which we are now openly requesting the government, when we should avoid the mass gathering or the revenge gathering, what we now say. But one of the word we often use is the physical distancing or the social distancing. And now what the word which is often even by used by our Prime Minister, there's a revenge tourism. And the school opening should not make a revenge socialization. And there we need to be extremely cautious and bring to the mind of the people that we are not out of the pandemic, but we know as a learned colleagues and we can be able to guide through and sail through when there is a storm is there, but still we can go through and reach our goal. So that kind of more focused attention and more focused care has to be taken by all levels. So it has to be taken by the local public health authorities, the school authorities and the government, and all the people should come together and take an appropriate decisions to be taken. This education pattern when the school is going to reopen, and I'm sure this also not only it's also refined the teachers and their roles also to be enrolled in a much bigger way. It is not that haphazard way of teaching. Now it has become a focused attention, cutting across the geographical burdens, and most of the teachers has also learned the art of documenting what they are teaching and properly doing the teaching schedule. So that is also one of the part of the school reopening guidelines to how to go ahead with the teaching pattern. It has to be from the blackboard teaching, or from the mass gathering lectures. It has to be a small group discussion or more interactive, the person-centered learning or the problem-centered learning. So the new avenues of the pedagogy learning has to be incorporated in the learning process. So I will appeal to Dr. Alexander Thomas sir also to have some models upon or some inputs on the teaching style or the way in which we are going to excel. Not only just it is an opening, but also the process of continuing that has to be also there. And one of the most important thing I will always request to see to this monitoring level, and how we should not see when the complication is occurring, when the students is there inside, and how to pick up early if there is something untoward event is happening, when the student is coming in, how to see that the early signs of the resurgence of the third wave or re-emergence of the situation, and how we get there is some protocol base should be also put in, not what we see in the airport and what we see just the screening with the temperature. I think whether they are looking into that actually or not, we are not seeing that. So something more appropriate guidelines should be there on also on the monitoring of the process and how the students will be there, and that will be a good opportunity. This is we always say in an association, these are backdoor activities and unthankful activities, and it has to be only can be taken by leaders of great commitment and who has a passion for the community development. I know for sure Dr. Giridhar Gyani and Dr. Alexander Thomas sir, and they have that passion in them. They should contribute something for the society. It is nobody is going to appreciate them for this, but because it is out of their mere involvement in the society well-being, they are taking this. So I wholeheartedly thank them, and on behalf of Indian Medical Association, I have the pleasure of extending our gratitude and thanks for taking this uncharismatic job and perfecting it to the standards expected of a national level, releasing it to the common platform. I wish and hope the government of India will be able to take note of it and take it appropriate guidelines and make it. It is not a political decision. It is a scientific decision we are taking whenever we are doing any response to the pandemic. So once again, I thank for this opportunity to be with you. I cherish this moment, and I'm looking forward, and more such guidelines will be coming forward so that it will be guide our country to go reach a COVID-free and appropriate positive area. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Jailal. With that, we have 4 experts who are actively involved in creating this document, sharing a few of their experiences. We have Dr. Ritesh Singh, who is a community medicine specialist and associate professor at the All India Institute of Medical Sciences. Dr. Ritesh Singh, can you come in, sir?
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, all. The release of this advisory is very timely.
Somebody can mute themselves.
About opening up anytime soon.
Dr. Ritesh?
Yes, sir.
Well, we move on to Professor Giridhar Babu.
Ritesh is there. We see he's there.
I think there is some problem.
Okay, sure. Okay.
In the audio.
I think it is.
Yes, I think he is traveling. Can we move on to Professor Giridhar Babu, member of the COVID Technical Advisory Committee of the Government of Karnataka? Dr. Babu, please come in.
Yeah, so I'm a member of the Technical Advisory Committee next and a professor at the Public Health Foundation of India's Bangalore campus. Thank you, Dr. Shanmugan and Dr. Alex Thomas and all the dignitaries here. I'm happy to be part of this inauguration. So I would want to summarize all the technical guidance that we discussed in the form of a simple mnemonic, which will be useful for the children, the teachers, and all the people who are involved in this process. My first appeal is to develop adaptable systems which will keep in line with the evidence of the COVID-19 and then how the school system can be made safe and accessible for everybody, including children and staff. Among this, the most important thing is the availability of testing and timely testing resources. So the first one would be A for availability and adaptability of the school system. The B would be to break the myths and to empower, as Professor Srinath Reddy sir clearly explained. This is the time for us to educate the children and then through them as agents of change, educate their family members and the community in terms of both COVID-19 response and also preparing future pandemics. The C is for community participation. We need to develop the relation with the community and to ensure that the background level of transmission in the community will be the guiding factor in the schools adapting to the response. The next thing related to this is D for developing partnerships. This will include partnerships with the health department, partnerships with the other societal organizations, whether it's NGOs or academics, to make sure that we create safe and healthy bubbles for children. Ensuring that children have access to health services if they fall sick is the next part, where is E. F is for face mask, to ensure everybody universally uses it. It's the most difficult thing for children to do, but then it's important, especially in the absence of testing and no vaccine being available for children. The final part of the mnemonic is G. So if you can just remember A, B, C, D, E, F, G, which can be a summary of all the guidelines that we have been doing. G is for guidance by all the other health and well-being activities of the children, the family members, and the community that they are in. So if a child falls sick or somebody in their family falls sick, how are we going to adapt a learning system which will not affect the child or their learning capacity and abilities? And also having a system to take care of empathy and also to support in overall development is what we need to develop. So there are controversies. Some states have already started, some states are yet to start. But then as part of the committee in all these deliberations and as a parent, we have gone through each consideration very carefully, and given what the limitations that we have given the recommendations which will promote the health and well-being of children. I'm happy to be part of this opportunity, and I thank the organizers, Dr. Alex, and all the team members, especially for the pains taken by Dr. Shanmugan sir in getting several experts together and getting this done. Thank you, and I wish all the best for release of these guidelines.
Thank you, Professor Giridhar Babu sir. We now move on to Dr. Zakaria, who will be sharing with us his experience representing the parent community in preparing this document. Dr. Zakaria, who is the professor and the director of DDU Kaushal Kendra of the Cochin University of Science and Technology. Sir, please come in.
Okay, thank you, sir. So, respected President of this function, Dr. Alexander Thomas, President HPI, respected Dr. Narendra Jadhav, Dr. Shakila Shamsu, Dr. Shanmuganandan, other distinguished guests and dignitaries, a very good afternoon to you all. First of all, I thank HPI and GCCMC for giving me an opportunity to be part of this noble venture. And at the very outset, I wish to place on record my sincere appreciation and congratulations to the expert committee for preparing this excellent guidelines for reopening schools post-COVID-19 pandemic. As Doctor said, I was representing parents in the review panel. As a parent, when I looked at this report, I had two concerns. First is, though we call it as a post-pandemic, as a parent, I believe pandemic is continuing and we expect a third wave at any point of time. So whether these guidelines will be effective to combat with that situation, that was the first concern. And second thing is that our kids are going back to school after 1.5 years, such a long gap. And we all know kids normally behave very spontaneously. So that means they will break all rules and regulations normally. That means once they get back to the campus after 1.5 years long break, they will run like a vehicle which lost its brake, isn't it? So whether these guidelines will have the capacity to regulate their behavior in the school campus, that was another concern. So I will tell you, as a parent, by looking at the guidelines, I really appreciate the efforts taken by the expert committee, because this is a very unique report. Unique report in the sense, firstly, its coverage. Its coverage is very comprehensive, because normally a guideline can be confined to a school classroom and its premises, but rather this report has taken the concern, the anxiety, the feelings of all stakeholders concerned with this particular issue. That means it covers the concerns of parents, students, teachers, non-teaching staff, and school management, everyone. That coverage is excellent. And another thing is that its perspective is very scientific and systematic. And third thing is highly adaptable. So, I mean, I feel this preparation of this guideline was a very, very laborious task. All experts have taken their best effort to come up with the best guideline. And I feel this guideline will just not serve as a guideline, rather it will give a lot of confidence to all stakeholders for sending their kids to the school. And there is a saying that it is not the disaster that makes the highest disaster. Rather, the way you respond to the disaster makes it is more important. So I'm sure in the event of all anxieties, whether the third wave comes or not, I'm sure the provisions made in the guidelines and the checklist with respect to all stakeholders, that will ensure an easy adoption of the guidelines, and we will have a good time in the school campus for our kids. I hope these guidelines will not affect the feelings, emotional feelings, and the feeling of liberty of our kids, and they will be getting sensitized to the new normals very easily with the support of these guidelines. Once again, I congratulate the committee for drafting such an excellent, professionally drafted report. Thank you very much. Wish you all the best.
Thank you, Dr. Zakaria. With that, we move on to a pediatrician, a very senior pediatrician, the professor of pediatrics and director of the Pediatric Center of Medical College, Kolkata, Dr. Kalpana Datta. Madam, can you kindly share your experiences, please? Dr. Kalpana Datta. Dr. Kalpana Datta, please.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. I had another meeting. Respected chairpersons, all illustrious dignitaries. Thank you all for giving me this opportunity once again. And it's my honor and privilege to be the part of this event and as a little contributor of this guideline, which is going to, I would say, inaugurated today. As we already discussed about the different steps and stakeholders about the reopening in school. So the planning, implementation, and monitoring the school reopening is not a simple task. That requires the integrated management with all the programs, not only the school education, the like sanitation, hygiene, child protection, gender sectors, and across the various government branches and ministries. All are important while opening the school, because only reschooling is not solve the problem. And we know in this pandemic time in India, especially 80% of children, especially in the adolescent group, like 14 to 18 years, reported lower level of learning than when physically at school, especially the girl children and the marginal children, disadvantaged household, and children with a disability face the biggest challenge. So they are also having there is chances of school loss will be much more after the reopening, because they have had a effect of pandemic. So it's very important to have all these stakeholders, and it should not a one-time job. It should be in a continuous manner. For that, all the stakeholders, teachers, and we have to monitor each and every steps, and it should be continuous monitoring. And I think this must I to say. Thank you for giving me the opportunity, because, sorry, sir, I'm having another meeting, so I have to end here. Thank you, sir, and thank you all.
Thank you, madam. Thank you very much. With that, I would now request Dr. Girdhar Gyani, our Director General, to address the participants as an advisor. Sir, please come in.
Yeah, thank you, VC. Although it is an initiative of HPI and GCC-MC, I can only say one thing, that this is one of the few occasions where the two distinct sectors, education and healthcare, have come together and put in their best efforts and come out with a document which is aimed at the well-being of the society. Actually, that is one of the objective of the HPI. And if you really see very carefully, the two chairpersons, Dr. Alex and Dr. Shakila, both have put their best of the effort. But you heard Dr. Shakila saying she wants to give all credit to Dr. Alex. You see, this is the beauty of this, companionship, that both of them have worked together, two sectors have worked together, experts have worked together, but they want to give, credit to each other. I think I don't see, you will find many examples of this kind. Just one small incident comes to my mind. When I was Secretary General, Quality Council of India in 2007, the Honorable President Dr. Abdul Kalam, he personally asked me this question: you have AICT, you have UGC and NAC. Do you have any quality accreditation standard for the schools? I said, sorry, sir, actually, it is not within the purview of the QCI, but it must be done by the HRD ministry. That time, Mr. Arjun Singh was the minister. He says, no, you are QCI. Why can't you develop? And in fact, let me tell you, my colleagues here who are listening here, we took, that was in February, and in December, we handed over the accreditation standard first time in the country to the Honorable, that time, Minister of State in the HRD. And that standard actually was passed on to CBSE, which became the first time the accreditation standard for the school. And I just want to quote one small thing from Dr. Abdul Kalam. Why he mentioned this point. He said in the school, 0 to 7 years and 0 to 14 years is the age when IQ develops the fastest. And if you do not take care of the quality in the schools, you are depriving the children of this particular opportunity. And last point from my side is that during this COVID time, I can feel the pinch at that the students, we have snatched the joy from the students, young students, who actually they are losing the companionship, which actually is an important part of the holistic development of the children. So I think this document is going to really push and help in running the schools with the teachers and students. So once again, I think I will not thank my colleagues in the HPI, but I will like to wholeheartedly thank the other stakeholders, the people coming from the education background, and last but not the least, the Honorable Dr. Narendra Jadhav, with the kind of eminence which he has, and he has come here to release the document. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Girdhar Gyani, sir. We now move on to the most important event of this afternoon's function, release of the document guidelines for reopening of schools post-COVID-19 pandemic. It's a matter of great fortune that we have Dr. Narendra Jadhav, the member of the parliament and formerly member education in the Planning Commission, Government of India. This document, as it deals with education, we are very fortunate that we have in Dr. Narendra Jadhav, one who has achieved the pinnacle of achievement in the field of education. Sir, we are honored to have your presence here and for accepting to release the document. We request you to kindly begin your address and also request that the document may be released. When you make the announcement, Mr. Mahesh of the technical team will display the front page of the document and we would take it as the document having been released, and thereafter we would request you to address the participants. Sir, can you kindly come in, sir? Dr. Narendra Jadhav, please.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Shakila Shamsu, Dr. Alexander Thomas, Padma Bhushan Professor K. Sainath Reddy, Dr. J. Jailal, all other distinguished speakers, experts, educationists, parents, ladies and gentlemen. I feel greatly honored to have been invited to release this document, Guidelines for Reopening of Schools Post-COVID-19 Pandemic. Would you please arrange to release it now?
Yes, sir. Mr. Mahesh? Yes, sir. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. And the document has now been officially released and available in the website of HPI and the GCC MC. Thank you for releasing, sir, and your address now, please.
Thank you. At the very outset, friends, I heartily commend Association of Healthcare Providers, AHPI, and the Global Coalition, GCCMC, for commissioning and for to the expert committee for their painstaking work on preparation of this advisory, which is of a great contemporary relevance. COVID-19, as we know, this pandemic has had a lasting and devastating impact worldwide on economies, on livelihoods, and on all strata of society everywhere in the world. And India, of course, is no exception. Since India is currently having the benefits of the so-called demographic dividend, in other words, India has a large and growing young population, whereas most other countries, including China and mostly the so-called developed nations, they have large and growing old population. In fact, as a matter of fact, India's at this particular point of time happens to have the largest cohort of children who are transiting to adolescence in the history of humanity. More than 250 million children are transiting towards adolescence in India, and this is the largest cohort in the history of mankind. As a result of this, what has happened is that India has been hit disproportionately harder in respect of school-going children. Indeed, in India, a very large school-going generation has been very severely affected. As we all know, homeschooling or distance learning cannot ever be a perfect substitute for school education. And therefore, it is imperative that the schools are reopened as soon as possible. But that must happen without jeopardizing the safety of the children. And that is precisely why this document, the guidelines for reopening of schools post-COVID-19 pandemic, becomes most timely as well as extraordinarily relevant. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there are 7 sets of recommendations which are especially important, and I wish to underscore them. First, the schools may start preparing for reopening before students arrive on campus. There should be a task force or a committee in every school for COVID safety, and they should recommend safety protocol and review the safety measures. Secondly, all teachers, administrators, staff, and other school employees, including bus drivers, should be fully vaccinated and must be appropriately trained in respect of COVID-19 appropriate behavior. Third, the teachers should also be trained to provide psychosocial support to the students. Fourth, detailed recommendations are there for day-to-day management, have been developed in various aspects of school life, which includes campus management, toilet, washroom usage guidelines, specific safety protocols for playgrounds, laboratories, common areas, cafeterias, and the provision of midday meals, as well as transport facilities. Fifth recommendation, which I want to highlight, is that the set of recommendations that have been presented for each of the stakeholders involved in the safe reopening of schools. This includes parents, students, school administrators, teachers, and other schooling staff, and also visitors to the school. The sixth recommendation that I would like to, set of recommendations that I would like to underscore is that mental health recommendations have been made in this important document in order to provide for this psychosocial support required by the vulnerable minors who have been exposed to various economic and social stress. And finally, there are, and I'm very happy that there are specific recommendations for schools catering to children with special needs. That makes this report not only most timely, but as I said, extraordinarily relevant. And I once again commend all the agencies which have commissioned this, AHPI and GCC-MC, and all the experts who have taken so much effort in a given time, a limited time. And I was told that this has gone through 8 drafts, and it has come out extremely well. And I commend and congratulate all those who are involved in preparation of this very vital report at the most appropriate time. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Dr. Narendra Jadhav, sir, I must say that you have gone through the document completely from the first page to the last page. Thank you very much. And especially for highlighting the important aspects of this document. It becomes more valuable when it is mentioned by you, especially as a person who has released the document. Thank you very, very much. And with that, we have the pleasure of requesting Mr. Hari Hegde, the Senior Vice President and Global Head of Operations, Wipro Limited, the other organization which was responsible for creating this document, to express his vote of thanks on this important occasion. Hari Hegde, sir, please come in.
Thank you, VC. Thank you very much. Before I begin, a line or two on this, on GCC-MC, many would be wondering what animal is this, right? So, Coalition for COVID Medical Care, or GCC-MC in short, is a Wipro-enabled full-stack knowledge platform for sharing good peer-reviewed medical information, papers, best practices among practitioners in healthcare. The single objective of setting up this platform was to reduce the health impact of the pandemic. And we at Wipro consider every opportunity for us to be useful and make our humble contribution during this pandemic in whatever way we can, deeply gratifying. Let me begin with Dr. Jadhav. We are grateful to you for having taken the time out to be with us and having taken that interest in reading the document and underscoring the important aspects of the document. Thank you very, very much. Dr. Srinath Reddy, you have supported in many, many ways. We've worked with PHFI in our GCCMC endeavor. You've always been a great support in all these initiatives. Thank you for your support and being with us today here. In a country with 260 school-going children, opening schools safely after 18 months, I think is a gigantic task. For Wipro and GCCMC, it's a privilege to play a small role in the preparation of this document. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, HPI, for this opportunity. And it's our privilege to be part of this and play our small role. Dr. Shamshu, thank you for anchoring this effort and synthesizing different views into this document in putting together a science-based guideline, a guideline that is based on rationale and a deep understanding from the medical fraternity, from the teachers, and from the parents. That's what makes this document hugely useful and relevant. We have Dr. Jailal, Dr. Ritesh Singh, Giridhar Babu, Dr. Jakaria, Dr. Kalpana Datta, Dr. Giridhar Gyani. All of you have played a great role in guiding, in advising, and there's a large cohort of, large number of others who have contributed in reviewing in preparation of this document. Thank you all. Thank you all very, very much. What's important is the point that Dr. Jadhav brought out. 260 million children is a generation. What we do thoughtfully is going to impact positively to that generation. So bringing them back to school and safely and getting into normalcy is critical. Thank you all for your contribution and the role you have played. Over to you, VC. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Before we bring the curtains down on this function, I would invite all of you to a webinar based on this document titled Getting Back to School on the 21st of September 2021 from 2 to 3 p.m. And it's a joint, again, venture by GCCMC and HPI. Welcome to the webinar on the 21st of September. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Alex. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shukla.
Namaskar, sir. Jadhav, sir, namaskar.
Namaskar. Thank you.
Namaskar, sir.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.